Hey all, how's it going? It's Business here, and I want to talk about my experiences so far with the Betrayal rework in 3.26 Secrets of the Atlas, where they did a pretty massive overhaul to Betrayal, where they wanted to separate the mastermind mechanic from the safehouse mechanic, but you can have more of a focus of doing all of it rather than having to like kind of decide what you wanted to do. They brought some changes to the mastermind. Well, I don't have any because they're actually quite rare from what I've discovered so far. I spent the first day in standard, you can see here, testing Syndicate. But you can see a little icon here. What they've done is they made it so that when you complete a safe house, there's a chance, and so far from my experience, it's like 1 in 10, 1 in 15, run about like 30 safe houses so far, to drop a mastermind fragment. And it's like a 1 of 1, it's like a Maven Raid or whatever, where you get to go fight the mastermind. There's no longer the rewards from the safe houses behind the mastermind. There's simply the Catarina fight, which they have made quite a bit faster, as well as the veiled exalted orb is a drop from Catarina, and Catarina has not new uniques, but her uniques now have special Catarina modifiers that didn't exist before that are specific to each of the uniques, giving them a breath of fresh air. Some of them are quite powerful. I'm excited to see them. The other things that are introduced into this league are the All Flames, of which Catarina drops some. I think Catarina has exclusive ones, but I'm not entirely sure of it. As I said, I haven't seen that many Catarinas to really know. But All Flames are a resource that you can put in your maps, similar to Scarabs, that modify your maps. Typically, they modify monster packs in some way, modify their drops, their experience, their loot tables, whatever have you. They're kind of cool. They're like another way to adjust your gameplay. But that's the mastermind. Pretty straightforward. As I said, mostly separated from the rest of the Syndicate outside of the fragment drops from doing the safe houses. Now then, the bigger change that has happened this league is most of the rewards from the Syndicate members themselves in the various safe houses have been changed. And of course, the league has just come out. We haven't quite been able to explore as thoroughly as I would like all of the rewards and how powerful or lucrative they may be. Some old favorites have stuck around, and those are the ones that I focused on because I had some sense of reference to how they were before and how they would look now. The big one that I'm sure people are curious about is Gravicious in transportation. The old man would, upon completion of the safe houses, give you full stacks of divination cards. I'm happy to inform you that he still does this, and it appears from my limited testing we've run, I don't know, like 15 transportation safe houses or something. It appears to be the same as last league, which is great. He still drops fairly rare cards. I haven't seen anything too rare. If I had to guess, the rarest card I've seen is the 3 cards for 1 Valdo's map. But I still have high hopes that he is unchanged. One thing I will note, for Gravicious specifically, is when you do a transportation encounter, you will get 2 chests at the end, which is nominal. Some of the other things that you'll see across the benches are things such as there is the bench that gives you a random unique item that you get a special Djinn orb that you can repeatedly use on it that can be used on corrupted items to give it additional implicits up to 2. Which seems like a fun thing to do. There's also like a reflecting mist bench where it gives you an item and you can craft it and then hit it with a reflecting mist. There's a bunch of fun ideas that hopefully pan out and are actually worth doing. But for now, what I want to talk to you about is focusing on you can set up a syndicate to farm whatever reward you want. In the examples I'll show moving forward, they're less about the idea of the specific members that are being shown and more of the orientation of the connections of the members and how they will help you repeatedly farm the safe houses that you want. One thing that I will note in 3.26 is they have seemingly, I've done a lot of safe houses, seemingly they've changed the mechanic of when you complete a safe house. To begin with, when you complete a safe house, and this will be shown later in much better detail, When you complete a safe house, let's say I run a transportation safe house, Gravices is my leader. You don't get any additional rewards for them being leader. However, the leader will be the one that gets executed at the end. They will lose 3 stars, so they'll lose all their stars. And then something that I have found happening, which is why I'm going to have a huge emphasis on having these isolated 2-2-5-5 setups, which will make more sense later if you're not familiar, is if you have more than 2 members, it will just randomly shuffle the rest of your board. I don't know why. I've had it pull members that aren't even involved in the encounter from one encounter to another, building connections, which if you're trying to have like a stable setup isn't ideal. I would just keep that in mind if you want to try to like branch out to doing 3 or 4 or 5 rewards. I'm not opposed to it, just understand you're probably going to introduce a lot of variance that you may not be expecting. Now, there will be several strategies of which I will show examples of varying degree of complexity in setup, as well as focus or speed of farming safe houses. And most of them will be examples that have been taken from previous leagues that are still viable this league, which is wonderful, especially people who have been farming Betrayal in the past. But at the end, I will be showcasing a new variation that's a little slower, but much simpler to set up, much easier to change if you want to reconsider what you want to be farming, and will include, as I said, step-by-step examples of how I will take a blank board and turn it into a board as you see in front of you here, where I just have, in this example, I am farming intervention and transportation, and I just have simple connections, one across, from transportation, intervention, with no consideration for other connections. And this is the method that I am going to be recommending to people this league if you just want a more casual approach or a more flexible approach to farming safe houses. So I will reiterate that all of these strategies are going to be focusing again on, you can see here, a 5-5-2-2 example. What I mean by that is if you look at fortification, it has 5 members. If you look at research, it has 5 members. And then intervention and transportation each have 2 members. The reason you do this is so that as the members from intervention or transportation, which are your focus, they are the safe houses you want to farm, as the leader loses their stars, loses their rank down to 0, the game will look at that safe house and say, it needs to have 2 members, and it will instantly send that person back. Something new that happens in 3.26, and you'll see an example of this later, is it puts them back into the leadership role, which is why the connections are important as I have them, where the leaders are connecting to the non-leaders of the other side so that you can build their ranks back up. However, as I said, methods from previous leagues, such as the 5-5-2-2, where you connect all of the 5s evenly across the 2s, will certainly work. You can have a more focused variation where you only connect the 5s and the other 5s to a single set of 2. This is a more focused setup where you want to farm a single safe house, and you don't terribly care about getting more value out of extra safe houses. You do a hybrid where you have a little bit of a connection from the secondary 2 to your primary 2, so you'll still mostly be running the safe house you want, but occasionally getting extra safe houses on the side. And then, as I said, this video will guide you through my new method in 3.26 that is fairly simple to set up. And as I said, because it has so few connections, it'll be easy for you to manipulate around and change what the focus of your farming is, should you want to shift it to something else. Okay, so this is a fresh board. As I talked about, we're going to try to make a connection from the leader of one safe house that you want to farm to the lower member of the other one, and vice versa. The way we're going to do this is we're going to have free roaming syndicate members like this, just 0 stars. That way when we run the respective encounters, intervention, transportation, whatever you're going to be farming, they'll appear and you'll have the option to send them into the house. Now, as I said, we're going to be crossing from leader to lieutenant, subordinate, whatever, and vice versa. So the way you want to set this up is you want to have 3 people in both of the houses. So it can be a little confusing. which is why you'll like plan it ahead of time. But effectively, let's say transportation and intervention are the two safe houses that I want to farm. I need to make sure I have the end result, one of the members that I want in transportation and one of the members I want in intervention in transportation, as well as in intervention, the same. One of the members that I will be farming their loot from intervention, and one of the members that I'll be farming their loot from transportation to begin with. That's how we will set it up. As you can see here, in this case, you're going to want to investigate better rewards than what I'm showing you here. This is just showing the mechanics of setting it up. I'm going to be moving Leo over to intervention, pretending that he is one of the members I will want to farm, as well as Hillock, and then we'll run a transportation event so that I can move Gravicius over to transportation, who will be one of the members I'll farm in transportation, and we'll pair him with Parandis here, who will be our intervention farm. It'll make more sense as we go through it, but this is just the very beginning. There are no connections, there's nothing, the members in the inside don't matter. We're just beginning the setup. Alright, so you can see here, we ran a transportation encounter. Gravicius showed up as a 0-star, loading an extra member with one of the regular members. We're gonna click Gravicius first, +1 rank, send him to the transportation, setting up for later. Okay, so this is a little further into the process. As you see, I plan on having Leo stay in intervention to give ultimatum scarabs or whatever. It doesn't matter, we'll figure out someone better later. But I want Leo to stay in intervention. I'm gonna have Hillock move across to transportation to be my second transportation person. I'm going to have Gravicius stay here, and we have Parandis move across. For now, we're working on the intervention side. So again, I'm going to have somebody staying, Leo. He needs to be connected across to transportation, which means I'm going to connect him to Hillock. The way I'm going to do this is you can get rival options fairly commonly between members of a safe house and the leader of the safe house. So in this case, again, Verici is just kind of like this extra body to make it so that you can move members around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to demote Verici here. I'm going to select Verici. I'm going to interrogate him, which will demote him, and more importantly, it'll knock him out of the position and push Leo into the captain leader position. So interrogate, Leo goes up, and now as I do intervention events in the future, I'll get options between Leo and Hillock when they come into the same event to build a rivalry between them, of which we'll go from there once it happens. So as you can see here, like we talked about earlier, we moved Leo. We could have moved Leo or Verici, it doesn't really matter which. I guess technically Verici would have been the better one because they swapped. But we moved one of them into the leadership position so that we can get exactly this option where they will swap positions and then become rivals. The important part here is that we make the link. We can manipulate who is the top position, who is staying pretty easily. The thing that's more important to manipulate is them getting a rival link. So we'll click Betray. As you can see, these people are now linked. Again, one of them will be staying, one of them will be moving to the other house. You can see this safe house is full. We're just not running safe houses. While you're doing this, do not run any of the safe houses. It'll send members in different directions, it'll pull them in random directions, and it'll build relationships. It's really weird how it works in 3.26 currently. Just don't run safe houses, just keep running Syndicate encounters, and they'll eventually fall out, and you can continue manipulating them. But again, the important part here is that we've built a rival relationship between someone who is staying in intervention and someone who is leaving intervention. And we'll come back to this. Okay, again, similar to what we did in intervention, where we were taking one of the members that is going to stay and one of the members that is going to move across to the other farming house. We want one of them to be leader. In this case, I'm going to, Chimeria is just like our free floating member who's helping us out. I'm going to demote Chimeria so that it sets up one of these as leader. And then we're going to try to find that same rival swapping option with the leader to make our connection. So we'll imprison him, pop, put someone up, and we'll try to get a connection between Gravicius and Parandis here. And then we'll move them around. So we can see here on intervention, we've built a connection between the member who is staying and the member who I want to send to the other farming house. In this case, Leo is staying, Verici is leaving. So I'm going to demote Verici down to 0 stars so that, again, as we get transportation encounters later, we'll be able to place him into the transportation. But we're still currently in the set up for transportation, so we'll just have them kind of floating around for now. As you can see here, we're in transportation. We have Gravicius and Parandus in the same side. We can make them rivals. Gravicius will become leader, yada yada. Click Betray here. We build the red link again. Gravicius is going to be the one who will stay in transportation. Parandus we will be sending across the world to intervention. The two houses we're going to farm are transportation and intervention. We're going to have Gravicius connecting to Parandus over here. And we're going to have Leo connecting to Verici over in transportation. So now our objectives are to get Parandus down to 0 stars, similar to how Verici is, and to have Verici appear in a transportation encounter so we can move him into transportation. Continuing on, as I said, I need to move Verici over to transportation and Parandus over to intervention. In doing this, our floating around Verici and Chimera is just going to go into the center. Chimera is just going to go into the center somewhere, and Hillock's just going to go in the center. But our Verici has shown up in transportation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move Verici into transportation. Boom. It's one of the things we need. And I'm going to take this time to move Chimera, who again is just like kind of a member to help move people along. Since Verici can do that now, we're going to interrogate him down to 0 stars so that he can become a free-floating member, and we'll put him into fortification and research. We'll just put him out of the way of the two farming houses. Just a quick continuation. We're here. We have Parandus and we have Gravicius in an event. So again, Parandus we need to reduce to 0 stars. Technically you can wait around, you can get them both up to 3 stars, and you can wait around for an option that will give Gravicius 3 stars and take away 3 stars from Parandus, but in this case I prefer just to interrogate them over and over and over. It will fill the transportation again, just run more events. Eventually they'll fall out and you can repeat the process. Since Gravicius is something we're going to be farming later anyway, I might as well take the time now to execute him up. It's going to fill the safe house, but again, since we're going to demote Parandus here anyway, we might as well go ahead and do it. Continuing on, as I said, Chimera was just being used as a free-floating member earlier. Now, as we're finalizing the process, we can just put him away. We'll put him in research just to get him out of the way. Boom. And as we get Hillock free later, we'll put him into fortification, as you can have 5 members in both of these. Continuing on, we've gotten the Verici in the correct location transportation, and now we're currently moving Parandus over to intervention, so that we can have the crisscrossing rival lines. See here. We're going to +1 him so that he ends up in intervention. And now we have the captain / leader of transportation connected to the lieutenant, I guess, of intervention, as well as the leader captain of intervention connected to the lieutenant person of transportation. This is the ideal setup that I'm going with here. I still need to demote Hillock here, who was just like a placeholder, to 0, and then I will move him into fortification, and then I can begin running transportation and intervention safe houses. Okay, here we are, finally moving our last free-floating Syndicate member into fortification. Hillock here. Now, as I said, we have our 2 farming members of intervention, our 2 farming members of transportation. Again, they can be whatever houses, whatever members you want. The leader of one is connected to the not leader of the other, as well as vice versa. The leader of the other one is connected to the not leader. We do this so that they come into the events in a specific way, so that we can continue doing safe houses. Alright, we're just going to go through some of the examples of encounters and the options you'll be going with to build up the intelligence. So in this case, we're in a transportation event. So Verici is the natural member. If you do execute members within their encounters, you will get, based on one of the notables on the Atlas tree, you'll get double the amount of stars as intelligence. So executing here will give us 6 intelligence. And then typically, one of the options that you can have here, because we do the crossing thing, is going to be rivalries that build intelligence. So our intervention is ready. We're going to run the safe house. Typically, when you finish the safe house, it'll remove 3 stars from the leader, and it will do that in this case. But because you have to have 2 members in a safe house, after it's done removing the 3 stars, it'll put the member back with 1 star, which is why we have these connections to build their rank back up as well as build intelligence. We didn't show an example here of them being executed, showing 0 stars. You get a Veiled Chaos from what I've seen about like 50% of the time. You always get an All Flame, which is nice. Oops. probably don't do that. Then it shows that it is being, 0 stars, but when we start up the next encounter, we run around typical city square. Shores are connected to city square, which is quite nice for doing quick map running. Our research was down there. We'll run the fortifications, just a block fortification, very similar to previous leagues. But if we open it up, you can see something very interesting has happened here, if you will. Not only has our Leo, who was our leader, returned to intervention with a star, he has been put back into the leadership role, which is something we will be taking advantage of. We're filling the fortification here, which we don't want to be running, we just want to get out the way. Again, if you execute members with the Atlas passive, you can get double their bonus. So we'll just start by, we can kind of look around to try to maximize it a bit more, but we can execute this hillock, give us a little bit of fortification, and then we can execute the leader. Typically you want to leave the leader till second because they'll keep the execute option here. You have 3 or more members, then that'll fill the safe house. And we can do just release. Typically, if you don't know what you're clicking or you don't necessarily know what the options are going to be doing, you just click release. It's like a pretty safe way to go about it. So as you can see here, we got an intervention encounter. So Leo is the leader of intervention. Perandus is the not leader. And Gravitius is linked across using Perandus. So we can use him to ensure that there are more than 2 members, which will always give us this execute to get our leader back up to 3. And then between these 2, different options can appear, but typically what I'll be doing is I will execute the member whose safe house it is. So Perandus is in an intervention, so I'm going to execute him. And then I will click the other member, and you'll typically, amount of the time, you'll get bargain options or other options that will give you even more intelligence for the house you're doing. So in this case, we got 6 off of Perandus, we leveled our leader back up to 3, and we got an additional 28 intelligence. This is like a pretty good map, right? This is the kind of thing that you're going to be looping over and over and over. Keep in mind, sometimes you'll get encounters where you don't have reinforcements show up. So this is an intervention where only Perandus showed up. He has an option to become trusted with a random member. We don't want to do that. Depending on how many encounters are left in the map, there's a little bit to be said about interrogating just to fuel a little bit, but typically I'm just going to release and go on to the next and not worry about it. As you can see here, we have the opposite of the intervention one. We have the transportation encounters where if we open it up here, you can see Gravitius is intended to be here, Verici is intended to be here, and then it will also bring over Leo because he is connected to Verici. Same deal, we want to be using the outsider to be fueling, to enable us to rank up if we need to. We don't need to at the moment, as well as to give us more intelligence. You can check him if you want, but he's not going to have anything until he's the last remaining. So you go execute, execute, give us a bunch of intelligence, but anyway, you would click here. Obviously, don't ever click the ones that say they want to remove themselves. It did give us a bargain option, and the bargain options are one of the ones that gives us a good option. Good intelligence. You just kind of have to hope it's the right one. We just release here. You don't want to do that option, obviously. All right, that'll be it for me as far as the Syndicate review of the new Secrets of the Atlas patch is concerned. Obviously, it's not fully explored. There's quite a few things that I still need to go over. Maybe new strategies, check out all the new benches. I'm pretty excited about getting to start the league and play around with mercenaries. I think I'll be starting snaking. I don't know, it's pretty good. Maybe some champion stuff. But for now, I'm done. If you've stuck around this long, I appreciate you. If you didn't, I probably appreciate you anyway. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to stop by the Twitch, leave comments, send me PMs, whatever have you. Love to answer your questions, love to discuss the new league, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Hope you all have a wonderful league, and I'll be back later with another video, a follow-up, I'm sure, as we discover which one of the new rewards from Syndicate are really worth chasing. Alright, take care, y'all.